Racing for 24 hours is seen as one of the ultimate tests of a racing driver. That balance of speed, endurance, mental fatigue, traffic management, and car conservation. All of which could mean nothing if the racing gods decree that your car has reliability problems. The only way though to find out is by racing to that point. It's a huge examination of humans and machinery working together in sweet harmony. Then, a different form of endurance-style motorsport is rallying, perhaps specifically the Dakar Rally. It's not one whole day of pedal-to-the-metal action like the 24-hour races are. However, with 14 arduous stages over 15 days, driving across some of the most difficult terrain that any driver, rider, navigator, car, bike, quad, truck can face, the challenge is enormous, but the risks ever present. However, one race trumps all of those when it comes to endurance. The race, the Firestone 600. The championship, IndyCar. The venue, Texas Motor Speedway. This track has hosted 34 races for the IndyCar series in its history, and it's fair to say that its history as host has been wild. However, the one that stands out the most to me is this one, that took place on Sunday, June the 12th, 2016. Well, I say that, but actually the race was meant to start on Saturday, June 11th. However, rain would put a dampener on things, because just in case you aren't familiar, IndyCars don't race on ovals when the asphalt is wet, so the race was pushed back to an afternoon time, where luckily the weather was better, for the time being. On pole position would end up being Andretti Autosport's Carlos Munoz, with a 2-lap average of 217.137 miles an hour, with Scott Dixon alongside, whilst fellow Colombian Gabby Chavez would round off the 22-car field for Delcor Racing, although that nearly didn't happen on account of the fact that Chavez crashed at the beginning of the first practice session, with his car not being repaired in time to set a qualifying run. After another 40 or so minute delay due to drainage problems, the Firestone 600 got underway. Munoz stayed in the lead, hugging the low line, whilst organised bedlam ravaged on behind, albeit the organised part is up for debate. This was back in the day when pack racing was still an element in these races, with the 2015 introduced aero kits. By around lap 10, the field had mostly strung out into single file as the tyres lost their peak grip levels and drivers were fighting and biting at the wheel to stay in control. It also demonstrated which cars were best on the long runs. Marco Andretti's was not one of them, which, considering his teammate Munoz was 24 seconds ahead of him in the lead, I'm sure Marco was well chuffed. By around lap 35, pit stops began, with Munoz pitting on lap 39. A few drivers decided to stay out a little longer, such as James Hinchcliffe and Connor Daly. One of those who pitted was Joseph Newgarden. He then met a sideways Connor Daly, who lost it on old tyres, upon overcorrection collided with Newgarden, and both went on to have a monumental accident, with Joseph getting pinned against the wall not only once, but twice, with the second time getting squished against the safety barrier with his head almost in the firing line. Miraculously, Joseph got out of the accident with relatively minor injuries considering what he just went through, a fractured clavicle and wrist. Connor Daly got out with no injuries from the accident. If you couldn't have guessed, the caution was waived and then proceeded an incredibly long period behind the safety car as the safety barrier was being repaired. However, eventually the yellow was withdrawn and was replaced with the great sight that is a red flag? Unfortunately, the rain, without it lightning this time, returned on lap 72 of this 248-lap race. With the radar looking bleak, to put it mildly, and considering how long the track took to dry in the first place, the decision was made to end the race for today. However, it would mean the race wouldn't be declared official, because IndyCar rules stated that the race had to reach lap 125 for points to be given. And clearly, seeing as we only reached lap 72, this wouldn't cut it. So, what would Texas Motor Speedway, IndyCar and the TV networks decide to do? The rain was scheduled for Monday, and a huge number of the drivers had commitments in that year's Le Mans 24 Hours. In the end, this is what they did. A whopping 76 days later, on Saturday, August 27th, the teams returned to the Texas Motor Speedway to intend on finally completing the job they'd set out to do. And the good news was, the weather was on their side. It did mean, however, that the hauler drivers had quite the journey. They went from Pocono in Pennsylvania, where its race had been rained off till the Monday on the 22nd of August, then travelled to Texas for the race on Saturday, and then travelled to the state of New York for a race at Watkins Glen the week after on September the 2nd on a Friday. That is a distance of over 3,000 miles, covered in just under 2 weeks. To those drivers of the trucks hauling the equipment that enables the series to go racing, we salute you. Now, to clarify on the rules, any driver who was knocked out of the first 72 laps wouldn't be able to compete for the race's scheduled resumption, so Connor Daly and Joseph Newgarden were out. However, that list nearly grew as Takuma Sato for AJ Foyt Racing had a piece in the suspension brake causing him to impact the wall. Luckily for him, the team would get the car repaired in time for the race. The restart order was the same order of when the race was red flagged. This meant that the drivers that hadn't pitted when the first caution came out would restart the race at the front. So that would be Hinchcliffe, Hunter-Reay and Aleshin. Finally, 76 days, 5 hours and 33 minutes after the race was red flagged, the green waved again. Hinchcliffe led on the restart and stayed there for all of about half a lap before Ryan Hunter-Reay inherited the lead. The cooler temperatures meant that the tyre degradation wouldn't be as much of a factor in this race, meaning the pack racing lasted longer on this occasion. Hinchcliffe would get the lead again and would keep it for a long time, whilst Helio Castroneves was keeping him honest. After the first scheduled pit stops, Castroneves would collect the lead, only for Hinchcliffe to get the lead back again with, I think, what you can describe as a gutsy move. 3 more tyre stops would occur during the race, and on lap 211, your top 3 would be Hinchcliffe, Carpenter and Castroneves. But between Carpenter and Castroneves was the first car a lap down, in 6th place, might I add, Scott Dixon. Dixon was trying to get his lap back, hoping a caution would fall his way. It didn't. Dixon and Carpenter made the smallest of car-to-car contact, but at speeds of 210 plus miles an hour, they can have big consequences, with Helio Castroneves literally scraping by parts of Dixon's broken car on the apron. From that point on, things got very frantic. With 28 laps to go, the race restarted. However, different battles were going on here, one for the lead, the other to get back on the lead lap, meaning cars on the lead lap were having to protect their cars, trying not to get caught up in a lap-down driver's mess. In the end though, it was 2 lead lap cars that caused the next caution, as Ed Carpenter's tyre went down and Castroneves got collected too with a bit of damage. Although it's a minor miracle that Helio managed to avoid getting race-ending damage from this. Max Chilton also spins out in sympathy. The race restarts with 18 laps to go, with 5 cars still on the lead lap, with Carpenter's spot in the 5 being replaced with Mikhail Aleshin. Hinchcliffe keeps the lead when another caution falls on lap 231. Involved are Jack Hawksworth and, of all people, Mikhail Aleshin. After working so hard to recover his lap back, Aleshin spun, with Hawksworth nowhere to go. Tony Kanaan pitted for another set of tyres during this caution, and then with 8 laps to go, the field, controlled by Hinchcliffe, is let loose once again. What follows is an incredible display of driving talent, bravery on a superhuman scale, and at the same time, keeping all their noses, mirrors, side pods and spoilers clean throughout. I mean, look at them, they're going 4 wide entering turn 3. It became a straight race between those 4 drivers, James Hinchcliffe, Graham Rahal, Simon Pagenaud and Tony Kanaan. Fighting for every inch of the racetrack as they head into the final lap, it would have been anyone's guess. Graham Rahal then dived underneath Hinchcliffe to claim the coveted low line, but as they both came to take the checkered flag, it was nigh on impossible to tell who won. The slow-mo showed, however, that by the width of, a well-done omelette, that Graham Rahal won the 2016 Firestone 600. However, if you want a precise measurement, Rahal won by 8 thousandths of a second. He was pretty sure he was going to win. He was pumping his fists in the air before he crossed the line. It was the only lap he led, but it's the only one that mattered, whilst a devastated Hinchcliffe had to settle for second, despite leading 188 laps. A race won by 8 thousandths of a second in a race that took over 6.5 million seconds to finish. That though is going to be it for this video. Thank you very much for watching. What do you think about this race? What are your memories of watching it live? Say what you think down in the comment section. However, until the next video, enjoy the rest of your day.